Hey guys, welcome to my Digital Bug deck profile. This archetype has some similarities to Zodiac, where it's an Xyz deck that gives beneficial effects to its Xyz monsters. But unlike Zodiac, which was a top deck at one point, Digital Bugs have been pretty much irrelevant since their whole gimmick is dealing with defense position monsters and battle position changing, which means nothing to Lynx. But it's something you can play against friends for fun. So let's get into the deck. Starting with the monsters, I'm running 3 Digital Bug Centibits. The main deck Digital Bugs have 3 effects, 2 of which are shared. They cannot be used for Xyz summons except for Insect Xyz, and the pool of those is not exactly vast, and if they are used as material for an Xyz summon, they give that Xyz monster an effect. They also have their own individual effects, which usually involve them switching to defense. If Centibit is used as Xyz material, the Xyz monster can attack all defense position monsters the opponent controls, and its unique effect lets you special summon a level 3 insect from your deck in defense when Centibit is switched from attack to defense. Being able to essentially E-tally bodies straight from deck is a great effect, and giving the ability to multi-attack a la Elemental Hero Wild Edge helps clear out boards. It's just not as great here since you have to switch Centibits to defense to summon, and if there are only Lynx on your opponent's field, there's no multi-attacking. Next, I'm running 3 Digital Bug Web Solder. Its unique effects let you switch a monster you control in attack to defense, then summon a level 3 insect from your hand in defense. And when it's used as an Xyz material, the Xyz monster on summon drops the defense of all opponent's monsters to 0 and changes them to defense. What's great about Web Soldier's summon effect is it does not specify it has to target a different monster, so you can just summon it, then use the effect on itself. The Xyz summon effect pairs really well with Centibits. If you use both as materials, the Xyz you summon will set your opponent's board up almost perfectly. And if you summon one of the on-theme Xyz this way, you will cause immense damage. Next, I'm running 3 Digital Bug Registrider. It has 2 unique effects. The first lets you special summon it from your hand if you normal summon a level 3 insect, then make the level of both 5 or 7. The second lets you change the battle position of an insect you control if Registrider is special summoned from your hand. Finally, its Xyz summon effect gives an Xyz using it as material a 1000 points buff. That last effect is probably the weakest of the main deck Digital Bugs, but stat buffs are welcome. The other 2 effects work really well together and are a great way to trigger the main deck Digital Bugs effects. Next, I'm running 3 Digital Bug Ladybug. That is a really clever pun. Its unique effect lets you search a level 3 insect when it's switched from attack to defense, and when it's used for an Xyz summon, you can draw a card when the Xyz monster destroys a monster by battle. If you pair this with Web Solder when your opponent has several monsters out, you can attack and destroy all of them while getting a bunch of draws since that effect is not once per turn. Next, I'm running 2 Digital Bug Cocoon Dancer. Its unique effects let you target a level 3 insect in your graveyard while it's in attack, switch Cocoon Dancer into defense, then summon the targeted monster in defense. And if it's used as an Xyz material, the Xyz monster basically becomes an Armades if it attacks something in defense. Having your opponents be unable to do anything while you're attacking is really nice, but doing it like this, not so much, especially since Lynx couldn't care less. Next, I'm running 3 Bee Trooper Scout Buggy. It locks you into insects while it's on the field, which is irrelevant in this case. And if it's summoned, you can special summon a second copy from your hand, deck, or graveyard. This is pretty much the easiest way to get bodies for some of the insect Xyz you'd run in this deck. You can't access the archetypal Xyz since they require light insects, but there is a completely generic card that fills that criteria. Scout Buggy does fit right in with its level. Next, I'm running 2 Dream Cicada. If you control an attack position insect, you can special summon this card from your hand, and if it's summoned, you can change the battle position of a monster on the field, which is a great way to trigger some of the Digital Bug effects. Another useful card to include, and there's no real restriction for the special summon, so if you draw 2, normal summon 1, special the second, instant rank 3 or link 2. Next, I'm running one Heavy Bee Trooper Mighty Neptune. It must first be special summoned by shuffling 3 of your banished insects into your main deck. If it's destroyed or banished by an opponent's card effect during any main phase, you can special summon it. And during any end phase, you can buff a different insect you control by 1000 attack. It is a bit costly since digital bugs don't really do a lot of banishing by themselves, but giving one of your Xyz a buff is really nice, and having the extra body for extra deck plays isn't a bad thing. The final 3 monsters are 3 Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring, universally the most used hand trap, at least of the Ghost Girls. Moving to the spells, I'm running 3 Bug Signal. It's effectively a rank up magic for insect Xyz. You target one you control, then use it to Xyz summon another that is 2 ranks higher or lower. This is arguably the best card in the archetype, and at least by my assumption, the most important. But given that it works with any insect Xyz, you could splash it into other decks. Next, I'm running 1 Bug Matrix. It buffs all insects you control by 300, and you can attach an insect from your hand to an insect Xyz you control once per turn. A handy way to restock on materials. Next, I'm running 3 Photon Veil. You shuffle 3 light monsters from your hand into your deck, then add 1 to 3 level 4 or lower light monsters from your deck to your hand. But they must have the same name if you add more than 1. I mainly put this in to give easier access to Registrators since you typically want it in your hand as much as possible, but being able to search the others can also help. It might be a bit too much to run 3, but I can cut them down if that's what people recommend. The final spell is Called by the Grave. Hand traps could definitely hurt this deck, so gotta have some insurance. Moving to the traps, I'm running 3 Bug Emergency. It lets you double revive level 3 insects, but negates their effects. It can also be banished from the graveyard, along with an Xyz monster, to change the levels of all level 3 insects you currently control to match the rank of the banished Xyz until the end phase, but it locks you into insects after it resolves. It's not bad, and it's nice the effects aren't mutually exclusive, so you can revive, level change, then Xyz summon all in one turn. Next, I'm running 3 Corrosive Scales. You equip it to an insect you control, making it the only monster your opponents can attack. And each time your opponent summons or activates a card or effect while this card is equipped, you put a scale counter on each of your opponent's face-up monsters, which then debuff those monsters by 100 for each counter on them. While it may not be the most punishing effect your opponents will have to deal with, it would kind of be a variant of the Maxi challenge. Do you make your plays and weaken your offensive board, or do you pass? Next, I'm running 3 Infinite Impermanents, more hand traps, and if your opponent does bad column placement, they temporarily lose their back row. The final main deck card is 1 Necrofusion. While digital bugs don't have their own fusion, there is another one they can use. But since there's no insect fusion spell, to the best of my knowledge, this is one of the few ways they have to access the fusion. And if you use this during your opponent's turn, the attack restriction means nothing. Now for the extra deck. For the fusions, I'm running 1 Ultra Bee Trooper Absolute Hercules. It requires 4 insects as material, it is unaffected by other card effects after being fusion summoned, and at the end of any battle phase, you can revive an insect with 3000 or less attack. It's a bit of a bomb to drop out of nowhere, and giving digital bugs more offensive presence is very welcome. For the Xyz, I'm running 3 Digital Bug Radiator. It requires 2 or more level 3 light insects. It can quick effect target an opponent's monster and change its battle position while also temporarily negating its effects by detaching 2 materials. And when it destroys an opponent's monster by battle and sends it to the graveyard, it can suck it up as a material. This is usually the starting block of the Xyz, and the effects are pretty good. Combine it with the use this card as material effects of the main deck digital bugs, and you can cause some real trouble. Next, I'm running 2 Digital Bug Korabage. It requires 2 or more level 5 light insects, but also has an alternate summon condition. You can Xyz summon Korabage by detaching 2 materials from a rank 3 or 4 insect Xyz, then use it, along with any materials attached to it, as materials. You can also detach a material to spin an opponent's defense position monster once per turn. And if a monster on the field has its battle position changed, you can attach an insect from your graveyards to Korabage as material. The alternate summon is pretty costly, as if you use the minimum number of materials to summon the first Xyz, Korabage will only have 1 material for its spin effect. So you ideally want to use Bug Signal to summon this, or have the field spell out to stock up on materials. Next, I'm running 3 Digital Bug Rhinoceros. It requires 2 or more level 7 insects, but like Korabage, it can be summoned using another Xyz, this time a rank 5 or 6. It deals piercing battle damage, and as a quick effect, you can detach a material to destroy the highest defense monster your opponent controls, or multiple if they share the same defense. This is the other Xyz you'll want to use Bug Signal on, and it's even better since you can use Korabage to spin a problematic monster, as well as use the effects it inherits from the main deck Digital Bugs, then immediately rank up into Rhinoceros to cause even more damage. I've had to deal with that on Master Duel against the AI several times. Next, I'm running 2 number 20 Giga Brilliant. It just requires 2 level 3 monsters, and you can detach a material to buff the attack of your monsters by 300. That effect will rarely if ever come up, since this is the alternative to Scaradiator, and it fits in really well given its attributes. For the links, I'm running 1 Bee Trooper Armor Horn. It requires 2 insects and locks you into insects like Scout Buggy. But again, that's irrelevant. It gives you an additional normal summon of an insect, and if it's in the graveyard, you can revive it by banishing 3 insects from your graveyard, but it's banished when it leaves the field. Giving extra normal summons to Digital Bugs is really helpful since they're not really known for swarming the board. Ironic given their type. Next, I'm running 1 Insector Picafalena. It also requires 2 insects. If it's link summoned, you can discard a card to equip a different insect you control with an insect from your deck, giving it a 500 points buff. It's also a mini Pot of Avarice, letting you shuffle 3 insects in your graveyard back into your deck, then draw a card. This is a staple of practically every insect deck. You pretty much have to play it if you use that type. Next, I'm running 1 Seraphim Papillon. It requires 2 plus differently named monsters, so a bit more generic. If it's link summoned, you put a counter on it for each insect used as link material. It gains 200 attack for each counter, giving a max buff of 600 attack, and you can quick effect remove a counter to revive a level 4 or lower insect in defense. This is another pretty common card for insect decks. I don't think it's run as much as Picafalena, but it should always be considered. The final card is Giant Bee Trooper Invincible Atlas. It requires 2 plus insects. It cannot be targeted or destroyed by opponent's card effects while it has 3000 or less attack, provided it was link summoned first. And you contribute an insect to either summon a Bee Trooper from your deck or buff this card's attack by 2000 until the end phase. The second effect can be helpful for running over something big if you don't mind losing the protection. But the summon from deck effect is likely the effect used more, even though there's only one target here. But it's a big boss to give Digital Bugs, which they no doubt appreciate. And that's it for the deck. It's a shame this archetype is outdated given the abundance of links running around, but as a fun deck to play with friends, I'd say give it a shot. If I was a character in Zexal, this would definitely be one deck I would use. As always, please rate, comment, and subscribe. Don't forget to follow me on X, consider backing me on Patreon, and remember to stay chilled.